So you work together as best you can.
Trying to address what has been a long-standing and systemic problem about how we can best address the issues that face women that take them into the justice system, and of course the failure all too often to get them out.
To ensure that we don't continue to send our women to prison, that we create programs, we create other alternatives in the community to actually divert them into rather than going to prison. So you work together as best you can.
This forum is part of our endeavour to increase community awareness and build a consensus among everyone here and outside about the need to change things and the need to go in a different direction. What we have to do is focus on getting agreement on what that direction is and how we should move towards it. And this is the start.
When I'd apply Section 11 to matters that I was dealing with, I would structure the program for the offenders in this manner. The very first thing that I would direct them to do was get a psychological and or psychiatric assessment. A number of the medical centres have psychologists and psychiatrists attached to them, or at least they are centres which can refer people to those resources in the community. And that was because once upon a time, long ago, it's not a fairy tale, but I actually had a brief in the Royal Commission into New South Wales prisons. And one of the things that I became aware of very quickly was just exactly this problem with people, men and women, but we're talking about women tonight. And so that when I was actually sitting on the bench, I knew that there were a whole lot of things that there were a whole lot of things in the bags that in the baggage that people carried when they came before the courts, and we weren't going to get anywhere very fast if we didn't get some window into those kinds of problems. I can't think of one person in the entire 27 years that I sat on the bench who did not have some mental problem, whether it was actually a mental illness or whether it was a cognitive impairment of some sort, of some degree.
I work with the intellectual disability rights service, and one of the things we find, especially in regional, rural and remote areas, is there just isn't the services for anyone to go back to. And that seems to be the biggest problem.
This is a really significant problem, and it's one that the Corrective Services struggles with. I do have to say that New South Wales Corrective Services is one of the best in Australia in terms of attempting to provide support and services for people with cognitive disability. They have a statewide disability service, and it is in Australia it doesn't have it's a peer, so it's in that respect it's very good. The problem for women is that one, the service is very patchy for women, largely because they go in and out very quickly. Women have much higher rates of remand, and you have a higher chance of being on remand if you have a mental and or cognitive impairment because of the difficulty of what's going, are you going to be released on bail. But to get back to your point, indeed, some of the You know, I have my top 6 towns and suburbs. Some are towns west of the Blue Mountains and some are suburbs in Sydney. The towns west of the Blue Mountains that have very high rates of people coming and going to prison who have cognitive impairment. 2 of them do not have a permanent disability worker, but they have 40 police in the town. And so your point is very well made, that what we need to do as a community is say, why are we not providing the appropriate and supportive services, particularly Indigenous appropriate support services? People with acquired brain injury, people with intellectual disability, people with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, people with borderline intellectual disability, because when that is mixed with a whole range of other issues, it is compounded. It is not just the sum of its parts. It is a compounded complex, which makes it very difficult for those people to make their way through life in a way which is satisfactory to everyone.
The results of stripping funds from programs and education will be prison expansion. Penal expansion has far-reaching consequences beyond the prison walls, which we all know is extremely damaging to all of us and to our communities and to our children. Much is possible right now if we merely have the will to stand together, to collaborate and confront the myths, misconceptions as well as the realities that are our current challenges. Present the evidence to our politicians, to the policymakers and the prison administrations. The evidence is there, the research is clear and has been documented many times over in the last 10, 15, 20 years. Sending women to prison is not the answer for the women of our community.